法定人數。
Right, it is time to make a start. We have attained the quorum. Confirmation of minutes of the 5th meeting held on November the 2nd. Please refer to paper CB2 170. We have received no proposed amendments. Unless there are proposed amendments, can I take the minutes as confirmed? Item 2, matters arising. A meeting with the CS. I have reflected members' views to the CS. And the CS is aware that there is concerns about the administration merely concerned about the poor, but not the universal pension scheme. The CS said that the government doesn't have any preconceived ideas about the universal pension scheme. The task force under the Commission on Poverty will also look at education and human resources training in addition to poverty. And Mr. K.K. Fong's subcommittee will be the counterpart for this task group to follow up on the issue of universal pension scheme. All right, any questions? Mr. Emily Lau? So our subcommittee, that they have the task force, we have a subcommittee. Well, these are two counterparts. So when we discuss the matter, the relevant officials will be appearing at that committee. So I hope that the Secretariat will take note of that. Please invite them when we discuss the matters. Thank you. Any further questions? If not, further business arising. Further business for council meeting on November the 14th. There will be report number 3/12 to 13 of the House Committee on consideration of subsidiary legislation and other instruments. The report covers subsidiary legislation, the period for amendment of which will expire on November the 14th. So if you wish to speak, please indicate your intention before the 14th of November, but no one has done so far. Members' motions: proposed resolution to be moved by Honorable Hon NG Leung-sing under Section 34(4) of the Interpretation General Clauses Ordinance in relation to the Banking Capital Amendment Rules 2012, Banking Specification of Multilateral Development Bank Amendment Notice 2012, and Banking Amendment Ordinance 2012 Commencement Notice 2012. Mr. Ng will seek an extension till December the 12th. Business for the council meeting of November the 21st. There were 20 questions, 6 oral and 14 written, have been scheduled. No bills for first and second reading. Government motion. Proposed resolution to be moved by the SFH under Section 29 of Pharmacy and Poisons Ordinance. Legal advisor, please. Chairman, the proposed resolution seeks the Council's approval of the Poisons List Amendment No. 3, Regulation 2012, and the Pharmacy and Poisons Amendment No. 3, Regulation 2012. To add two substances, Paragraph 5 has outlined the technical term. Two substances will be added. Now, following the addition of these substances, the sale, supply, labeling, and storage of these substances are subject to certain restrictions and can only be sold upon a prescription given by a registered medical practitioner, registered dentist, or registered veterinary surgeon, and they can only be sold on registered premises of an ASP. This will be gazetted to take effect on November the 23rd. We have not identified any problems in our scrutiny. Members might wish to consider whether an SC should be formed. SC? If not, we shall inform the administration. Members' motions. The first one is by Mr. Leung Hong, buying back the shares of the Link. The second one by Mr. Leung Yu-chung, Inclusive Society for All. For amendments, the deadline for notification is November the 14th, and that's next Wednesday. Any questions? There are 7 pieces of subsidiary legislation, and this has been tabled before members. If members wish to speak, please notify the Secretariat before November the 13th by 5 next Tuesday. No question? Report of bills, committees and subcommittees. Ms. Sit-ho. Chairman, this third TM for allocation of emission allowances. The written report should be available pretty soon. This is not a legally binding document, but in the document it has to do with the development of renewable energy and emission reduction of the 2 power companies, whether there would be costs to be incurred, and whether this would give an excuse for the 2 power companies to raise the tariffs. We've had a meeting, and we would like to express our intention to allow some time for members to speak. Any questions? Mr. Dennis Kwok. Chairman, thank you. During the last term, the Civic Party talked with the then CE, Mr. Donald Tsang, that the review exercise is too slow and the data, the indices are outdated, which were put in place in 1987. Now the new AQO is only the interim index proposed by the WHO. Mr. Kwok, you don't have to go into detail. What you said can be said at the council meeting. But Chairman, I'm really saying that the government's review of the AQO is too slow. But you may wish to take this up at the council meeting. Mr. Wu Chi-wai. Mr. Wu Chi-wai. Chairman, thank you. On this third technical memorandum, the administration refused to have any target. I mean, emission reduction is one of the targets. I hope that the administration will make emission reduction as one of the criteria, so that we can deal with that in the context of the TM. Right, you might wish to take this up at the council meeting. Any further questions? If not, CB2 171 stroke 12 to 13. As of November the 8th, there are 9 SCs under the House, 6 on subsidiary legislation, and 1 on policy matters, and 2 on other council business. And also regarding the subcommittee on the 2 orders made under Section 49(1)(a) of the Inland Revenue Ordinance and gazetted on October the 19th, relating the avoidance of double taxation, there are only 2 members who have indicated they wish to join, and the subcommittee could not be formed in accordance with House rules 21B and 26F, which provide that the subcommittee should consist of not less than 3 members. All right, next discussion of a proposal for the setting up of a subcommittee under the House to promote the rights of persons with disability as requested by Honorable Emily Lau. Ms. Lau. Chairman, you must have received a letter from the Coalition for the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. There were 27 organizations. I must declare that the Democratic Party is one of them. In September, we've been to Geneva to attend the relevant hearing of the UN Committee. There are recommendations. Last week at the Council meeting, I put an oral question already. They hope that the LegCo would show concern, and the government said that they are very concerned. This cuts across different bureaus. Some have to do with barrier-free access, education, welfare, and health care, and so on. And they very much hope that LegCo would set up a subcommittee. I don't want to bore you with the details of the letter. They understand that during the last term, a lot was discussed at the Welfare Services panel, but that panel was really concerned with welfare, and they hope that the LegCo would give all due recognition to this matter, and they should arouse the concern of all members concerned, instead of just those who are worried about welfare. They've written to us, and with members' support, we might wish to set up a subcommittee to follow up on all the problems encountered by the people with disabilities. Yes, indeed, I have received the letter, and I've asked the members, the Health Services panel, and all the other panels to have a look at it. Now, if we want a subcommittee formed, we do need to have the terms of reference clearly spelled out, and then we will have to put it to the vote to see whether members subscribe to the idea. Mr. Tam Yu-jung. Chairman, in terms of the rights for people with disabilities, the mainland of China would submit a report on behalf of Hong Kong, and the CA panel would conduct discussion on this. Prior to the report being submitted, we would have discussions inviting all the relevant organizations to hear their concerns. In June, we had a round of discussion already. The government report has been put together, and the UN has made some response. By December, we're going to put this on the agenda, and we'll invite the administration for a meeting. Where necessary, we can invite the deputations to join us. At the CA panel, this is a method that has been followed up all along. And as I said, we will invite the relevant bureaus, and indeed, if members of other panels would like to join, they're more than welcome to do so. This has always been the practice of the panel, and I don't think we see the need for a subcommittee to be formed under the House. Dr. Kwok? Chairman, I speak in favor of Ms. Emily Lau. Mr. Tam Yu-jung talked about the CA panel. Now, we fully respect the Chinese delegation, which highlighted the situation in Hong Kong regarding the people with disabilities. There are 27 organizations that have written in. I'm sure that there will be more that would like to do so. In implementing the convention, they do encounter unique situations.
I do believe we have the responsibility to work on this, and we do have the responsibility to allow more organizations to contribute to the work of the Legislative Council so that we can submit a timely and appropriate report to the UN so that we can play a central role in writing that report, since the chairman said that members would have to write out the composition and the terms of reference of that subcommittee. Why don't we allow Ms. Lau and other interested members to draft the terms of reference? I believe the CA panel also has other important tasks, and in terms of having democratic development, and also we also have another important task of doing away with functional constituencies, universal suffrage to return members of the LegCo, and for returning the CE, etc. If we can have a subcommittee to take away some of the burden of the CAP, I'm sure that's a good thing, so that we can focus more on constitutional development in Hong Kong. As Dr. K.K. Kwok said, if you want to set up the subcommittee, you have to do the preparatory work. This is not the time for debate, and I'd like to remind members that under the LegCo, we can only have 8 subcommittees in all. How many do we have now? One. But the Secretariat understands that 7 are poised to be set up. And then we might have to discuss how we can assign priority to the subcommittees. If every of those subcommittees will be set up, the Secretariat may not be able to cope with the workload. And at the LegCo Commission, next time we can discuss how we should tackle this. Because after a few years, we have had these subcommittees, but we might like to take another look. Mr. Leung Yu-chung, well, I think we can also float this particular one. We can allow it to stand in the queue so that perhaps it can become one of the 8. As a matter of fact, on the 21st, I have been allotted a slot for moving a motion debate, and I will be speaking on persons with disabilities. And I will be asking the administration to set up a task force to follow up on the implementation of the Convention of Rights of the PWDs. And I'd like to tell you that in that convention, there are many, many articles, and it will be quite impossible for a panel to follow up on all. Even if you want to do it, you will not be able to do a comprehensive job. And PWD organizations would like us to have a comprehensive follow-up of all the articles in the convention, so I hope LegCo will support it. The administration says that we should have an inclusive society. However, in terms of policies and measures, the administration just cannot deliver its promise. I hope members will support Ms. Emily Lau's proposal, and I hope Ms. Lau's proposal can be put into the queue for consideration. Well, it's all right. As long as you can write out all the terms of reference, you can resubmit to the House, and then we can process it as a normal application. Ms. Emily Lau, that's something I would certainly do. And in fact, I thought that members could support it in principle. Then I can get on with the drafting work. So, Chairman, do you think that we should seek members' endorsement in principle before we go about the terms of reference? Or would you like us to draft the terms of reference for members' consideration before they give their support? Secondly, Mr. Tam Yu-chung talked about the panel. Well, it could only devote so much attention and time to the convention. Every time there is a report submitted to the UN, he would ask the relevant people to come and have something to say about it. But now we would like to focus upon it. And when we go to the UN, the SCMA or CMAB is not the leading bureau, but then it is led by the LW Bureau. And therefore, there is a lot of confusion. And I believe Mr. Tam Yu-chung will be extremely burdened in these few years with human rights and constitution development. Therefore, I would like to have a dedicated SC to do this. It's all right for me to draft the terms of reference, Chairman, but the best will be for members to give their endorsement in principle. And in fact, the clerk will know, it's a kind of routine that we write out the terms of reference, and then I can submit them next week for members' indication of intention. Well, we can do it in a few ways. We can do it at the House, or we can ask the CAP and the WSP to have a joint meeting to tackle this. So you have to think through what you would like to do. And if we have the terms of reference, then members will be able to look at them and say whether they support the setting up of the subcommittee. Because without the terms of reference, it will not be exactly right for us to ask members to indicate their support. So please draft the terms of reference. Please allow me to come back next week. Please put that on the agenda. And after the meeting, I can liaise with the clerk. But please put that into the agenda for the next meeting. Right, okay. Any questions? Mr. KK Fung. Chairman, I support the proposal by Ms. Emily Lau because I do think that PWDs do not enjoy equal opportunities in Hong Kong yet. The EOC has spoken on PWDs, and I was the convener on the subcommittee on policy at the EOC. But policies take time to be incubated and formulated. Last time we tackled the barrier-free access issue, and we were able to take on board government buildings and government-subvented organization buildings, but not at the private buildings. And in fact, when we talk about disabilities, we're not just talking about the 4 limbs, but disabilities with regard to other parts of the body, and there is a lot to discuss. So as the Council, we have the right and also the responsibility to research into all these different aspects and then make proposals and also promote the welfare of PWDs. I'd like to remind members of 2 things. This is not a debate. It is just for members to express brief views. And then we have to hand the venue to FC at 3:30. And if we complete the meeting, you will have to come back at 5:30. All right, Ms. Sit Ho? Chairman, I support the proposal by Ms. Emily Lau that we set up a subcommittee to look at the promotion of rights for PWDs, because indeed PWDs face the issue of special education, institutional care, and employment matters, and these are not within the jurisdiction of the CAP. It is an inter-panel matter, and we need also to invite different bureaus to come along. And the CE has said that a certain sum of money would be put aside every year to build barrier-free access for PWDs, and I believe the subcommittee would be the forum to follow up on such matters. So I support the proposal, and after Ms. Lau writes out the terms of reference, I hope members will support the setting up of the SC next week. Mr. Wang Ting Kwang, I did not ask to speak. I saw your button coming on. Mr. Tam Yu Chung, you might have looked at the button next to mine. Chairman, in fact, I think it's a good thing for us to give broad indications to Ms. Emily Lau here. Then she can consider taking up the second step of the work, or else she would be spending time on the terms of reference and then come back to see that there is no support in LegCo. Just now, some members said that they are worried about the workload of the CAP, that the chairman is too busy. You don't have to worry. We have the responsibility to tackle our work. If there is more work, we can have more meetings. We can have longer meetings. That's all right. That is what we have been doing. Sometimes we also tackle reports submitted to the UN, and that is why it is something for the CAP. And I said, if there are too many things to discuss, well, it doesn't matter. We can always arrange meetings. Just say so if you need more meetings. You don't have to sympathize with me for the heavy workload placed on my shoulders. And this is something we have been doing. There has not been a problem. And we can invite the organizations which are submitting views to come to the panel, and we have done so in the past, and we can also invite the bureau personnel to come along, and we can always have comprehensive discussions. Well, Mr. Tam Yu Chung has also said that we should indicate whether we would support the setting up of the subcommittee. Ms. Emily Lau, would you like that to be done? Ms. Emily Lau? Of course I would agree. That is what I said. I'm a pragmatic person. I know who would permit what to be done. But then there are tens of thousands of PWDs who would like the LegCo to do something concrete for them. If you don't want to do anything concrete for them, if you just want to have an easy time, then put up your hands. It doesn't matter, Chairman. Well, okay, we'll have a show of hands. No, we should push the buttons. Miss Emily Lau is asking for a division, or so we can have the division bell ring for 5 minutes.
請各位
Members, please proceed to vote.
請同事核對。
Members, please check your votes. If there are no questions, please display the results. 62 members present, 25 for, 34 against, 2 abstentions. The question is not supported or agreed, so the HC does not support the setting up of that subcommittee.
結員建議跟
All right, the next one, proposal from Honourable Alan Leung for moving a motion for adjournment under 16.4 of the Rules of Procedure at the Council meeting on November 14th for the purpose of debating the following issue, the arrangement for Mr. Franklin Lam, member of the Executive Council, to take leave of absence. Mr. Lam. Chairman, thank you. I'm sure members have seen from the appendix the letter I wrote to the chairman. I hope that at the council meeting on November the 14th, under Rule 16.4 of the Rules of Procedure, I would be allowed to move an adjournment debate, basically on Mr. Franklin Lam, member of the Executive Council's arrangement of leave of absence. 16.4, members must be aware, the focus is on any issue of public interests. Now, in this leave of absence arrangement for Mr. Franklin Lam, how do we fit into this? I hope that I can convince members on the following 2 grounds. First of all, Chairman, this leave of absence is quite unprecedented. During the leave of absence, does an unofficial member of the Executive Council still attend functions in his capacity as Executive Councillor? Does he still attend meetings, not so much the EXCO meetings, but other meetings? Or does he function in his capacity as an Executive Council member? Mr. Franklin Lam has a tenure of 5 years, and this is the beginning quarter of the year, the first year, and he's starting his leave of absence, and this is going to be indefinite. So in theory, he can be on leave for the entire tenure of 5 years. If this is the case, then the seat would be lying vacant for all these years without being filled. Now, this is how the Civic Party feels on the matter. I hope the members would subscribe to what we have to say. Mr. Franklin Lam gave an account of the sale of the properties, and the timing, by coincidence, was pretty close to the time the stamp duty measures were proposed, and the accounts he gave were contradictory, and there is a lack of integrity there. And if someone has lost his integrity, how can we allow them to be part of part of the important decisions that are going to be made that would have implications on Hong Kong? So in this context, the Civic Party can't see how Mr. Lam can hog this particular seat continuously, and we do see an element of public interest involved here. So on this basis, we hope that members at the Council, at the House Committee, will endorse this idea so that we can refer the matter to the President of the Council and permit me to move this adjournment debate. Mr. Raymond Wong, 2 minutes, please. Chairman, I support the proposal made by Mr. Alan Leung. Now, we proposed a subcommittee to show concern for the PWD, so that was rejected, and I don't see any chance of this being endorsed. I mean, we're given 2 minutes to scold people. Now, at the time when the cooling measures were announced, he jumped the gun and sold his property. Now, the former FS bought his car. I mean, he was forced to resign. I had a phone call chat with him, and I didn't ask him about this. Now, wondering if you apply the same standard, does he have to resign? Now, I can't call them executive council. I mean, they're all a load of rubbish. Mr. Zheng Qigong is a case in point. When they talk about freedom of speech, but he's an executive councillor. He has to avoid all these taboos. And Franklin Lam is also like this, and Mrs. Ip might not be pleased about it. I exclude you from that. Now, this is a matter of grave significance, whether there is any conflict of interest. Now, he's a beginner. I think he should learn a lesson and resign and step down to take responsibility. I think there is a case for this to be debated. LegCo is here for debates, and we're not allowed to even engage in any debates. We talked about consultation for legislating for equal right for the for people with different sexual orientation. We're not allowed to do so. Mr. Albert Chen. Well, I think it is a constitutional relationship between the executive and the legislature. There is such a major blunder committed by an executive councillor, and during this period, he's taking a leave of absence. My understanding is that hardly ever would that occur like this. This leave arrangement, what sort of policies does the government have? I think we're not given any satisfactory answer. Mr. Ma Chai-kwong stepped down at the moment he was investigated by the ICAC. Now, Mr. Lam is also being investigated by the ICAC. Now, Mr. Mack resigned, and he held down a full-time job. Now, Mr. Lam made it sound as if he has lofty ideals. He's doing it on a voluntary basis. There is no consistency on the part of the government in this regard. It all depends on who is involved. I think the government is really doing things on their whim. It all depends on how they feel. There is no specific criterion in this regard. There is an urgency to this. I think at least we are discharging our responsibility to keep the executive in check. If we reject this, then we're giving up on our responsibility. The whole thing would be manipulated by Mr. Ip Kwok Him when he stick his thumb up. That there will be a voting in favor. When he put his thumb down, there will be voting against the proposal. Mr. Wu Chi-wai, well, the Democratic Party is in support of Mr. Alan Leung's proposal. I hope the members will endorse this. We put in an urgent question, but the President rejected it. There are so many problems that have to be investigated by the ICAC. But the key thing is that Mr. Franklin Lam gave conflicting account of what he did, and this is before public eyes, and this would undermine the credibility of the Hong Kong SAR government. The government officials, including the chief executive, said that Mr. Lam was involved in the relevant discussion. Now, he is an executive councillor, and he is part of the think tank of the Hong Kong SAR government. His problem has dragged the credibility of the Hong Kong SAR government in the mud. I mean, if we reject this idea, then it would certainly be undermining the relationship between the executive and the legislature, and the Hong Kong SAR government would stand to lose the opportunity to cut its laws, and also to put an end to this particular issue. So we would like to give the administration an opportunity, and we hope that this adjournment debate can be endorsed. Now we're going to move a motion on this particular issue, although we're not sure whether we will be able to get selected. Now, if the government doesn't detonate the bomb, then the whole thing will go on and on and on ad infinitum. This is Regina Ip. Chairman, under Rule 16.4 of the Rules of Procedure, members can move an adjournment debate on issues of public interest. So it's not a question of whether we support this or not. Anybody can raise the subject. It's a question of whether we should waive the 7-day notification period. Is there such an urgency to that? From Mr. Leung's letter, he mentioned that it's not proper for him to keep his executive council status. Now, he get paid, but he said that he donated all his pay, and while on leave, he will not be given access to any documents. Executive councillors don't enjoy any privileges, not for shopping anyway. And I can't see the urgency why we have to do away with the 7-day notification. Right, let's hear from the Secretary. Next week, we're going to have 2 motions for debate. And we need the endorsement of the House for the third one to be included. Secretary? Secretary, next Wednesday, there's going to be the ESC meeting on at 8:30, 14th or what? I think we're going to have a long day on Wednesday. Yes, and there are 2 motions at the council meeting. Mr. Alan Leung, I would like to add an adjournment debate, and under Rule 13, we need the endorsement of the House Committee. And Mr. Leung is also seeking endorsement to waive the 7-day notice. But is there such an urgency? Well, it's up to members to decide. Of course, the President would be the ultimate adjudicator. Mr. Wong Kwok Kin, Chairman, nobody can stop anybody moving any debate, but it is all a question of urgency. If we submit a motion in accordance with the rules of procedure, nobody can stop it.
Now there is the issue of urgency, and so let us look at it together. The FTU views this on 2 levels. 1, somebody said that he jumped the gun and he sold the property, and because of his capacity as an EXCO member, he might have got wind of the new measures. However, until now, we could not find any proof about that. The CEFS and also the convener of EXCO all spoke out to say that this was not discussed at EXCO. But apart from that, there has been nothing concrete, including Mr. Alan Leung, who is not advancing any evidence of Mr. Franklin Lam having got wind of the measures. Secondly, has he broken the law by selling his property? Well, the ICAC is conducting an investigation. Now, even if he has broken the law, then he will be subject to punishment. So I cannot see why there is the urgency to have an adjournment debate on this. We're still of the view that without concrete evidence, and if law enforcement agencies are conducting investigation into the matter, then I would say that we should not conduct this public trial, so to speak, of Mr. Lam before there is any conclusion on the part of the law enforcement agencies. Mr. Paul Chair, I don't know whether it's because I am sitting close to Miss Regina Ip so that she has taken words out of my mouth. Whether or not Mr. Lam jumped the gun, that should be subject to investigation. But as to whether he should continue to be an EXCO member, I think in the eyes of the public that has already been proved, and that is he should not be an EXCO member anymore. But let us talk about urgency. Mr. Wu Chi-wai said that he might be moving a motion debate anyway, and now there is a request for an adjournment debate and also for the waiving of the 7-day notice. I believe the President might want to consider the 7-day notice waiver, whether it comes from a member or the House, and that may make a difference for the President. So let us discuss this waiver, and the legal advisor might comment on this. What is more important is that there is an objective criterion so that later on we can tackle such applications accordingly. And secondly, we have to be careful about setting a precedent. I myself would agree that there can be an adjournment debate, or better, we can have a motion debate. But then if there is urgency or not, let us have an objective criterion to decide this, because we may be setting a precedent. Legal advisor, with regard to the allocation of debate slots, this is purely procedural and purely within the purview of the House. But of course, it will eventually be up to the President to make a decision, a ruling according to the ROP. So legally speaking, I have no view. Well, I understand this is not an legal issue, but then when the House considers whether we should give the waiver, can we act by any objective criteria? Chairman, the House is a committee. I cannot see any objective criteria which have been written down. When the President considers whether to allow any waiver of notice period, he can refer to previous rulings and also replies to members. Mr. Alan Leung, before I wrote this letter to you, Mr. Chairman, I directly made the request to the President. And through the Secretariat, the President informed me that, as you were saying, there are already 2 motions without binding effect. If I want to add another one, it should be first considered by the House. So it's not about urgency or otherwise, because 16.4 does not talk about urgency. 16.1 talks about urgency, and 16.5 talks about the waiver. And the President did not ask the House to indicate any stance with regard to 16.5 because the President has all the discretion. And I'm just supplying the information to facilitate discussion here. So you can discuss on this basis, and please avail yourself to the information I have just given you. There are 2 more members in the queue, and I will allow Mr. Alan Leung to speak for another 2 minutes before we put it to the vote, and I'll draw a line there so that we can conclude our meeting in good time. 2 more members would like to speak, plus myself. Please be brief because of time constraint, and also Mr. Ip Kwok Him. So 3 members. I'll draw a line there. All right? Please be as brief as possible. And Mr. James Teen. Chairman, since you asked us to be very brief, I will indeed be very brief. Society is very concerned about this, and Mr. Franklin Lam has already been on leave for some time. The controversy is about the waiver of the 7-day notice, and that is whether we should have the adjournment debate next Wednesday or the Wednesday after next. I have no strong views on this, and since that's the case, we will support Mr. Leung. Mr. Lam Tai Fai, thank you, Chairman. Mr. Alan Leung is asking for an adjournment debate on the matter. Should that be reasonable and appropriate? That depends on your individual judgment. To me, when we judge on a matter, we should look at the urgency of the matter, first of all, and two, whether it is worth our while. The behavior of Mr. Franklin Lam, does that have anything to do with his integrity? Should he be trustworthy? Well, it depends on your standards and the wisdom that you have. He gave a most convoluted explanation. He also talked about his wife and his mother. Well, to me, there is no point discussing this matter about him because we already have a long agenda. And on Wednesday, there will be this vote of no confidence in 2 bureau directors. That will already be a long debate. And we still have to debate on Mr. Franklin Lam. That will be a waste of precious time. So it's a waste of time. Should this be an urgent matter? No, it is not urgent because, first of all, I don't think we should even debate it. So I don't think we should discuss the appropriateness of the debate or not. I think we just do not have to debate about this person. So I will vote against it. Ms. Sito, well, you can object on different grounds. Well, you can object to something because the comma is not in the right place. This Council here, you don't want to discuss the welfare of PWDs and also the integrity of EXCO members. How has this council been relegated into a council of having a show of hands to object anything? I think this is a worthy debate because we are concerned about the integrity of EXCO members. I support Mr. Leung's proposal to have an adjournment debate because if we are going to follow the normal procedures to wait for a slot to move a motion debate, it may be 2 months away. So, Chairman, I would say that we should support the adjournment debate, and I believe this is also a responsibility to delineate on the different queries, and also the parties can also register their stance. Or is it that you are telling us that you can allow people to jump the gun to sell property and also to buy a car when the duty is to be increased? So let us state our stance in public. Mr. Ip Kwok Him. Thank you, Chair. I have read the letter, and it is asking for a debate on the leave of absence of Mr. Franklin Lam, and I don't know why the integrity of Mr. Lam has been drawn into the picture. We look at it like this. We have heard members, and Mr. Alan Leung has asked for a waiver of the 7-day notice period from the President. And members here are saying that there is not such an urgency. The DAB feels that we don't need to resort to the waiver of the notice period. If you want to have a debate, stand in the queue, follow normal procedures. And a member has said that this is not worth a debate, but the DAB would propose that let us ask for, not for a waiver, let us just follow normal procedures. Thank you. Dr. Kenneth Chan. Chairman, I understand time is precious. We are all very keen to use our time in the most profitable fashion. I myself am not just concerned about the behavior of Mr. Franklin Lam, but also the constitutional setup and also conventions at EXCO. And on what ground did the CE accept the leave of absence? And what are the considerations? What is the background to that consideration? So as a legislator, I would appeal to members that we should consider the issue at this level and not just the person and not just a struggle amongst political groups and parties. And in fact, many members of the public do feel that their interest is affected by the behavior of such EXCO members. I would like some room for discussion here at the Council, and I would really hope and appeal to members that Mr. Leung's request be granted so that on Wednesday next we can have the adjournment debate so we can speak on behalf of the public about the views on the matter. Mr. Alan Leung, I will give you a minute. Yes, Chairman, I will not repeat what I said, but I have heard Mrs. Regina Ip and also Mr. Ip Kok Him. I just like to clarify one point. Even on the 21st of November, that is a Wednesday, even if we have the adjournment debate on that day, the President is still asking for the House to express its stance. I am not sure whether those two members I mentioned are saying that it's all right to have the adjournment debate on the 21st, but on the 14th is a little rushed. If that's the case, they should vote yes, and then the President will know that these two members are telling him that they have worries about the waiver and they think that it's all right for us to have the debate on the 21st. Would anyone claim a division? Okay, the bell will ring for 5 minutes. The issue is that Mr. Alan Leung is proposing to have an adjournment debate on the 14th of November in accordance with ROP 16(4).
謝偉俊議員。
Mr. Paul Chairman, I'd like to seek some understanding into the matter. Mr. Alan Leung's proposal can be considered. Does it mean, however, that there is this premise to a yes vote, and that is, Chairman, you will tell the President on behalf of the House here that even if we say yes, you will tell the President that it is not on the 14th. No, I already said that we are voting on having this debate on the 14th. So, Mr. Alan Leung, are you conceding that it is all right for you to have the debate on the 21st? Because if it is on the 21st, we might say yes, but on the 14th, we might say no. Let us have two votes then.
係嘅嚇。
I think it's all right for us to have the motion debate on the 21st. No, the President is asking the House to express its stance first. He is not telling me that I should ask the House for supporting the waiver, but whether we should have a third debate. Now, I don't know whether there is the understanding of the clerk. That is my understanding anyway. Secretariat. Well, that is our understanding as well, that the President would like the House to support one more debate on top of the two scheduled. Chairman, this is for your consideration. And that is to allow members to have one more vote. Well, we can do it in either of the two ways. First of all, whether we have a debate on the 14th. If we support it, then yes, we'll have the debate on the 14th. If not, then I will ask you whether you would support having the debate on the 21st, all right? Can you do that? Mr. Lam Tai Fai, I do not agree with your proposal. If you say that you can ask about the 14th, the 21st, and the 28th, then you can go on to the 30th of June 2016. I won't filibuster, said the chairman. No, but that doesn't work as a kind of logic. You can't say you go from the 14th to the 21st and then the 28th. Then we'll have a vote until the 30th of June 2016 because that is not right logically. When you say vote, you should vote on the 14th, then it is just about the 14th. Secretary General, you like to say something? As a matter of fact, members are not just discussing whether there should be one more debate on top of the two and also the timing of the debate. Chairman, in fact, you have stated quite clearly that there are just two options. I feel that members can vote on both options. Mr. James Tin? Chairman, let me ask Mr. Alan Leung. Why don't you just propose to have a motion, an adjournment debate on the 21st because the Liberal Party would support you? If that's the case, Mr. Chairman, let us have it on the 21st. Then you can have just one vote. I believe the President is really asking for an expression of stance by the House to see on which day we don't mind having three debates. That's it. Mr. Lam Tai Fai, I will follow up on the same point. Does it mean that we are not going to vote on the 14th but the 21st? then what we said would not come to any fruition because we were also debating about the urgency of the matter. So what we said would go to waste totally.
Maybe Mr. Lam didn't quite hear that. I talked about urgency. This is not what I am seeking. This is not a consideration. When I'm seeking the House support, as Mrs. Regina Ip said, urgency. For urgency, we look at 16.1 instead of 16.4. Now, what I'm seeking to have is 3 motions, not the question of urgency. Now, for the 7 days, the President didn't ask me to come and seek members' views. I think he can exercise his discretion. This is what I have to say by way of clarification. Where 16.5 is in relation to 16.4. I think you cannot say that because there is no urgency, you cannot, you don't have to have regard to 16.5. Well, this is about waiving the notification period. Right, Mr. Alan Leung has adjusted his proposal, and that is to seek an adjournment debate under 16.4 of the Rules of Procedure on the 21st of November on the arrangement of Mr. Franklin Lam, Member of Executive Council, to take leave of absence. Your vote, please. Members, please check your votes. Voting now ends. Results, please. 60 present, 29 for, 29 against, 1 abstention. We have the same numbers, for and against. I have the casting vote. Normally, I would cast my vote against. By convention, I have to vote against the proposal. So the motion is not carried.
Well,
I don't have any choice, I'm afraid. So I don't think I'm getting in the way at all. All right, any other business? I don't have any AOB. Meeting now adjourned.